Hi everybody, Joey here again and welcome back. So today I'm going to show you guys how to build an aquarium rack. Now a lot of you guys already know what that is. Essentially, it's an aquarium stand with multiple aquariums on it at multiple levels. The importance of this video is very straightforward and simple. I'm going to not only show you how to build the stand, but how to plumb multiple aquariums. Obviously, there's a couple of different ways that you should be plumbing these aquarium racks depending on your needs. So first and foremost, we're going to build the aquarium rack itself, following by plumbing the actual aquariums. An important thing to note, however, is that you guys already know how to do this. If you've been following me for a while, you'll notice that during this video, everything that I show you how to do has already been covered in previous videos. Now what comes to mind there is very straightforward and simple. This video is going to give you a basic idea on one way you can do it. It's not going to be the exact way set in stone how to build an aquarium rack, but it's going to give you ideas and inspire you to perhaps build something similar to it and or use a few methods from this video to apply to your own needs. So first and foremost, you're going to need aquariums to actually plumb and to actually build a rack for. Where are you going to go get those aquariums? Well, you have a few options. Personally, for me, this rack just kind of happened over the course of 2 to 3 years. I've been collecting aquariums for quite some time, anticipating that I might need them eventually, so why not buy them? I bought them cheap, less than $1 a gallon in most cases. Went ahead and bought 14 aquariums for very cheap. This entire build, in fact, cost me less than $700. That's all plumbing, the aquariums, the rack, the filter, everything. So essentially I'm plumbing 14 aquariums with over 300 gallons of water for less than $700. Now that might still sound like a lot of money, however, if you calculate what I paid over the course of 3 years, it's not that much money at all. So what I did was, like I said, collected aquariums slowly. Your options are very simple. You could do the same, or you could build glass aquariums, you could build acrylic aquariums. I've shown you how to do both of those types. You also need to figure out why you're building this aquarium and why you're building this rack. Is it to breed fish? Is it to create a quarantine system? Or is it simply just to have a lot of your aquariums in a small area? For me, it's going to be a breeding rack. So what I'm going to be doing here is going to simplify this build completely. So we're first going to want to start off with the actual rack and building it. Now, given the fact that the aquariums that I purchased were all of different sizes, I was challenged with the fact that all of these aquariums are going to be sticking out further than the other. Now in my rack, I put them side by side, not lengthwise. Lengthwise, it takes up far too much room. Now on the top rack, I have 2 tanks that are going to be 33-gallon tanks. They're 36 inches long. Side by side, it makes it about 6 feet long. So I didn't want to have to go any longer than that. Just given the space that it's in, I wanted to be able to save some space. The tanks below that are all 15-gallon tanks. They're 2 feet long. So front to back is how they were placed. They're only 12 inches wide. I put 6 on there, so that also makes it 6 feet. The bottom rack holds 20-gallon tanks. These are 30 inches long and only 12 inches wide. Now, if you notice that these tanks are all in a staircase shape type deal, meaning that the bottom one is sticking out further than the second row, and the second row is obviously sticking out further than the top row. In the back, they're all flush, however. Doing this allowed me to put all these tanks in a very small area, but it made building the stand a little bit more complicated than building a straight up and down stand would be. So let's get started on that stand. As I had mentioned previously in this video at the beginning, I had told you guys that we've already built all this in the past. As for the stand, I've already shown you guys how to build a strong aquarium stand. Now I'm going to use that design and apply it to this rack. Starting off with the bottom, we're going to want to create the base of the tank. This is basically the outline of what the largest tank is going to be, and it's going to sit on lengthwise. From there, the second rack, which is also going to be the next base, and then the top. Getting those 3 out of the way is going to make this a lot easier for us. Finally, we're going to actually move into what's going to hold this rack up. At the back of it, we're going to hold risers. The back the back risers are going to depict not only how tall this tank stand is going to be, but it's also going to allow me spacing between each aquarium. I typically wanted about 4 inches of space so I can get my entire arm in between each tank if I needed to. From there, the rest of the build was really straightforward and simple. We're building it identically as to the way we would build a regular aquarium stand. However, we're moving some of these blocks backwards slightly. You'll notice how I did it in the pictures. So with the actual aquarium stand built, I never needed to protect it with some sort of a varnish or anything like that because I'm actually going to end up covering these tanks, so condensation and humidity is going to be very minimal. These are extremely breathable stands based on the idea that they're completely open. Adding appropriate bracing was done afterwards to ensure that I had complete bracing. Now you'll notice that there's no bracing going up and down the middle of this stand. At only 6 feet long and only holding this amount of weight, this stand is definitely rated for triple that amount of weight. I didn't really need to put center bracing in there. If you're using heavier aquariums or a longer stand, you're definitely going to want to put a brace up in through the middle. Now in that how to build an aquarium stand, I showed you guys how to do that. So again, this was a very straightforward stand, very simple and easy to build. Now, it's time to move on to aquarium placement. Obviously, we just put them in place. The longest ones are on top, followed by the 15 gallons, followed by the 20 gallons. Now, as for plumbing, at the beginning of this video, I mentioned that there's a few reasons why you would even build the rack like this. Obviously, like I mentioned, I'm building it for a breeding system. Now, in this breeding system, all tanks can actually be connected and share the same water because I'm not going to be housing brand new fish, I'm not going to be quarantining fish in this system, and I'm not going to be having injured fish in this system. So they can all share that same water. Now, if you're building a quarantine rack, which is like a hospital rack or to monitor new fish that you're getting, all tanks need to be separated. You can't have them connected in any way. If one tank is sick, they're all going to be sick. If one fish is being medicated, you're going to have to medicate the whole system. So it's better off just to plumb them individually. And if you're going to do that with multiple aquariums, you're better off to toss in a simple heater and a sponge filter, call it a day. You don't need to complicate things. If you're doing this to house a lot of your personal fish in one system, that's still a bit risky if you want to plumb them all together. Because again, if one tank gets sick, they all get sick. If one tank is killing all of your fish, it's going to kill every fish in the system, or it could potentially do that. So if you plan on bringing in new fish, don't quarantine them in the same system. You're going to want to have a completely different system, a different hospital system set up to do so. Now, again, with my breeding system, I can set them up all together, plumb them all together. They can share all the same water. In the top rack, I'm going to have a breeding pairs of discus in each tank. And the second rack is going to act like grow-out systems for the baby discus fry. The very bottom rack, I'm probably never going to use them for much, but I had them, so I decided to throw them into this rack. First and foremost, we're going to decide how we're going to plumb and how we're going to filter this many tanks. Obviously, it's going to be easier to filter them all at once. So the top 2 racks need to be able to drain down to the next 2 and then next 2 after that. Simply put, we're going to drill each one of these tanks exactly how I showed you how to drill a glass aquarium in a previous video I made. Again, keeping with the idea that you guys already know how to do all this. Okay, so the top racks drain into the bottom racks. Those or the middle rack drains into the very bottom then goes into the actual filter. Bulkheads are installed to be able to, ball valves are installed periodically to be able to control the water flow. I want to be able to control the flow going from the sump up to the main aquariums. And then those top 2 aquariums, I want ball valves on them as well so I can control how much water is flowing through each one. Now that water is not going to flow evenly regardless, so you need to have ball valves. Why? Water is going to travel the path of the least resistance. So if you didn't have ball valves, one tank is definitely going to get more than the other, regardless of how you set it up. There's no way to control it unless you control it with ball valves or some other sort of valve to be able to control that flow. So once that water has entered the top 2 tanks, it's now going to drain into the middle 6. I still need to control that flow, so more ball valves have been installed to individually control each one of these drains to each one of these tanks. Once they've gotten to that middle rack, the exact same amount of water is going to overflow into the very bottom rack. So I don't need any more ball valves, which is great because they're not that cheap. From there, all of these bottom racks and all of the water that's been pumping up is now going to overflow into the sump. Now, setting up all of this plumbing and how to cement it, what ball valves are, you know, everything about plumbing, I've covered that in another video as well. So again, we already know how to do that. Now notice that we basically are taking a bunch of my other videos, combining them all into one. Almost. Made a lot of videos. Finally, when the water gets to that sump, it's going to be filtered through a trickle filter and or call it a wet dry, some people. Again, I did a video on that and showed you guys exactly how to do it and exactly how it works. Now this tank is just running with fresh water in it. I haven't cycled it at all yet, but I'll be putting either some plastic pot scrubbies or some bio balls in the middle drawer in order to filter this. From there, one heater. A 300 watt heater, I might end up putting another 300 watt heater in there, is going to heat the entire tank. I still have to put lids on here. I'll just build them out of acrylic and place them on top of each aquarium to retain the heat. So what does this accomplish? We've gone ahead and built everything. We have everything plumbed. We have everything ready. What's the main point here? Main point is that we filtered 14 aquariums with one sump. We heated 14 aquariums with 1 or 2 heaters. We filtered 14 aquariums with 1 aquarium pump. This is where you're going to save a lot of money as opposed to filtering and heating and pumping all of them individually. Now again, we took all previous videos or a few of my previous videos and combined them into one. Now I hope this video actually does that for you guys. You get a few ideas and maybe some inspiration, or you start looking around your house at all those aquariums being individually filtered. You might want to start building racks out of them. Again, this is not a video that's set in stone and how to do this, but it's definitely how I set these tanks up. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I thank you for watching, definitely, and we'll see you next time.